grateful to be back with all of you again this week. In recent days, we've announced 3 decisions: our plans for commencement this May, our summer program, and our plans for a return for the fall semester. In my presentation today, I'd like to walk through each of these decisions and the factors that shaped our approach for each. And I hope to clarify why we have focused primarily on a virtual commencement with small in-person gatherings, while at the same time we made announcements about our summer Hilltop Immersion program and intended fall return. We have faced many difficult decisions throughout this past year. Every one receives our most careful and thoughtful consideration. No decision has been more difficult than commencement. I have heard from many in our community expressing disappointment about our plans. I share your disappointment. All of us hoped for the possibility of a traditional celebration. Our highest priority is always the health and safety of our students and our community. And right now, the conditions of the pandemic do not support large gatherings. Here in the District of Columbia, we are currently limited to 50 people for outdoor gatherings. Just a week ago, on March 22nd, the DC government raised their limit on outdoor gatherings from 25 to 50. Indoor gatherings are limited to 10 people. With commencement only 8 weeks away, it was important for us to communicate the best decision we could make at this time based on local health guidelines, current conditions, and the trajectory of the pandemic in the short term. As I shared with our community last week, in addition to our virtual commencement ceremonies, we are developing small in-person gatherings for graduating students. Focusing on smaller gatherings provides important flexibility should DC guidelines be adjusted. Our peers in DC, American, George Washington, Howard, have taken this same approach. They too are hosting virtual commencement ceremonies with smaller in-person events contingent on the city's rules. The celebration of commencement is an important moment in the lives of our students and families, and while the current pandemic conditions do not permit a large gathering this year, we are planning to bring the class of 2021, the class of 2020, and their families back next year when we anticipate it will be safe to be together. This, we hope, is a symbol of how much we understand just how difficult this moment has been, especially for our graduating class. Let me share with you more about these current conditions, which, along with the guidelines from the DC government, shape our health and safety considerations. I'll then turn to some indicators about the longer-term trajectory of the pandemic and our decisions about the summer and fall. First, the current pandemic context. For more than a year, we have been following cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. I'll focus first on hospitalizations and deaths before turning to cases. We have seen significant improvement in the national trends. In January, on average, we were experiencing 3,000 deaths each day. A month ago, 2,000. And now we're averaging about 1,000 deaths a day. Over the last 2 weeks, we have seen about a 30% decline in the average death rate and a 10% decline in the average hospitalization rate. You can see how this drop in hospitalizations in the US compares with the rate in other countries. Looking now at the number of cases in our community, as I have shared with you in previous presentations, we saw elevated numbers of cases for more than a month compared with the fall. This has been a challenging semester. Through asymptomatic testing and adjustments to our mode of instruction, We've worked to identify any rise in cases early and reduce further spread as much as possible. Overall, in the United States, we have seen significant improvement in the number of cases since the peak in January. In mid-January, we were averaging about 260,000 new cases a day. Now we're experiencing about 55,000 new cases per day. Yet, after steady and dramatic decline from mid-January through mid-March, we have seen the national curve flatten out in the last few weeks. Some states are starting to see a new rise in cases, even with 2.5 million people across the country being vaccinated every day. States such as Michigan, Colorado, Connecticut, South Dakota, and Hawaii have reported increases of more than 30% in the past week, and 32 states have reported a higher 7-day average of cases than a week ago. There is some concern that these rising cases are attributable to the new, more transmissible B.1.1.7 variant, which emerged in the UK and caused a new and serious wave of infection there. We are watching this very closely. These are not the conditions to be bringing large numbers of people together. Vaccination, however, provides some hope. As I mentioned, about 2.5 million people are being vaccinated every day. The vaccines are highly effective. As we look ahead 3 to 4 months from now, we expect the impact of widespread vaccination will be significant. Today, just over 14% of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated. 26% have had at least one dose. At the current pace, we can expect almost the entire U.S. population to be vaccinated by late July, 4 months from now. This gives us a strong sense of optimism for the summer and fall that is just not yet present in our current moment. As we look ahead, we continue to plan for our summer Hilltop Immersion program. We created this program for rising sophomores and recent transfer students who have not yet had the opportunity to be a part of residential life at Georgetown. Provided public health conditions allow, our summer immersion program will begin in June for 5 weeks, giving our students the opportunity to take courses with faculty and spend time with classmates. Our public health measures will be in place to limit overall density. Students will be part of our asymptomatic testing protocol and participate in our layered public health program. We hope this provides an opportunity for our students to adjust to campus life before they begin the new academic year. The most recent decision we announced is our intended return this fall. I shared last Thursday that we anticipate the conditions will be in place to bring our full community back and resume more regular life on our campuses for the fall semester. We will begin our gradual return this summer with the Summer Hilltop Immersion program, leading up to a full return of our community in the fall. We are working with our Public Health Advisory Group to determine appropriate public health measures as new national and local guidelines are announced. This may shape factors such as classroom setup, mode of learning, and our expectations around vaccination. We're also taking steps to reflect on the telework experience of our colleagues and how we might adjust some of our current approaches. Our plans, which are subject to review by the DC government, may need to be updated should the trajectory of the pandemic or local or national guidelines change. As you've heard me describe throughout this presentation, there are many reasons to be optimistic about the overall trajectory of the pandemic and the improvements we might expect over the next 5 months. There is still some uncertainty. Let me mention a few areas we're following closely. We need to ensure that projected plans for vaccine delivery are realized. Manufacturers need to meet vaccination delivery targets. Widespread vaccination must continue. We need to know more about the vaccine's role in preventing transmission. We know the current vaccines are highly effective in terms of preventing illness. We are still learning how the vaccine works against transmission to an unvaccinated person. Public health measures are still needed for those who are vaccinated around those who are unvaccinated, and 75% of our country is not yet fully vaccinated. We need to understand how public health measures will need to change, and we'll also need to address the impact the new variants could have. Can the U.S. vaccination rate help us to stay ahead of the curve and prevent a new wave of infection? While we still must learn more about each of these elements, overall vaccination numbers combined with continued improvements in the number of cases give us cause for optimism. This has been a challenging year. We are reaching a pivotal moment, what we hope is a turning point in the trajectory of the pandemic. And I wish to thank each of you for doing all that you can to make this moment of optimism possible. In the next few days, many of our religious communities will begin special celebrations. To the members of our community who begin their celebrations of Passover, Easter, Ramadan, and Holy, I wish you the very best during this sacred time. And I'll see all of you again soon. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you. For every Hoya, everywhere.